we decided to put this podcast together, I thought, oh my gosh, I got to get somebody really, really smart and somebody that can really, really talk to do this with me. And Kelly, I thought about you. You're so amazing. You have come in and you've talked to us at our Elevate series a couple of different times, and people just love to hear you talk.
Well, thank you. I know that I can carry through on the talking part, but the smart part, I'm not sure I can handle that, but we'll see.
I will tell you, you have a big fan club out there. I don't know if you know that or not, but you have a huge fan club. I get these people all the time that just tell me how much they love training with you. You're a fitness guy, obviously, but you are just a amazing person. I noticed on your Facebook page says Behavioral Change Specialist.
Yes.
What a cool title.
Well, I think it's better than life coach, I think.
Yeah.
That just, to me, it seems like a lot of people are getting into that area.
Absolutely.
And with the behavioral change, it is a certification through NASM. It's National Academy of Sports Medicine. And so, I wanted to be official, and so that's what that's the certification that I chose.
I think it's a great certification. You know, everybody has got changes that they're wanting to go through in their life. Let's talk a little bit about you and your background before we get started and let people kind of know who you are. Kelly, you have been in the fitness industry for how long?
37 years.
37 years. Okay. And you've helped thousands of people get fit.
Well, I've given a lot of information out.
There you go.
It's funny, I'm a behavioral change specialist, but there's only one person that we can change, and that's ourselves. So what my goal is to give some tools that we've never been given. In high school, we learn math and science, but nobody ever tells us that when we go out into the real world, things are going to be a lot different. We can use these things in our jobs, but sometimes we get into a position where we're making all this money, but we're miserable. And so that's where I come in, and I try to help people to kind of clarify and evaluate their thoughts. And if you think about it, I mean, we don't learn this anywhere. And I think if you're seeking it out, you go to the bookstore and there's like thousands of books on self-help. And you also can go on the internet now, and there's all these programs that are, they promise to make you change overnight. And unfortunately, that's not the way it is with the mental aspects, mm-hmm. and it's also not the way it is with the physical aspects. As far as dieting goes, you mm-hmm. Lose 30 pounds in 30 days. And for the first 30 years, or maybe even less than that, 28, I was really, since I've been to health and fitness, I focused more on the diet and the exercise, because there's very specific, it's called the specific adaptation to imposed demand, the SAD principle. And we know exactly what we need to do nutritionally and through our exercise to reach a specific goal. And but that doesn't sound real sexy. Mm-hmm. And so what they'll do is you'll see models on the internet, and they're doing certain things. But a lot of times, unfortunately, it's taken us further away from where we really want to be. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to spend that much time at the gym. You don't have to starve yourself. So it's really about educating people about health and fitness. But even after I do that, we really aren't talking about the real problem. The problem is not, it's not that we can't see the problem, it's that we can't see the solution. And a lot of times the reason why we overeat is not because the food tastes good. It's because food has become a way of escaping. It's become a way of increasing our dopamine, which makes us feel better, so it pulls us up out of some funk we may be in. And so with the behavioral component, what I'm trying to do is teach people to become more aware of the emotion so that we can act with more logic and reason. Mm-hmm. And then there's three things, really: logic and reason, acceptance. Mm-hmm. We have a hard time accepting what's happened. And what is. It's already happened. So trying to change what happened, we kind of get ourselves into this stress, anxiety whirlwind that we can't get out of. And then also the last thing would be control. You control the controllables. Mm-hmm. If you can't control it, then why should we think about it anymore? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what I'll do is it's like having our iPhone, and you know how we clear the mess from it so mm-hmm. that it functions better?
Absolutely.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do, or give people the tools where they can clear their head mm-hmm. so that they can see more clearly. And The lens is not so clouded. We're trying to see through a clear lens.
You know, you're saying a lot of stuff here, and I agree with you, but I'm sitting here thinking, eating is such a social thing for me, for instance.
Yeah.
I mean, I eat with people. I love food. I love good food. And it's like a time you sit down with your friends and you just enjoy a great meal at the end of the day, you know, or a great lunch. I mean, we obviously serve a lot of food here at the Success Center, and it's just a time to just sit down and socialize.
Sure. Yeah, and that's okay, except for if you look at the statistics, 40% of Americans are overweight or obese. And 30% of school-aged children. And we see some of the highest rate of diabetes occurring in the young children. You know,
True.
they used to call it type 2 diabetes was called adult onset. Well, now it's just type 2 because we're seeing more and more children
Really? Okay.
that are diabetic.
It's interesting that you said this. I had this conversation with my son the other night. We were at dinner, and he said, Mom, you know, he's 16, and he's into gaming and stuff like that. But he said, Mom, kids look different now than they used to, and you can tell one that's a gamer. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, usually they're underweight because they don't eat, and they've got bags under their eye because they don't sleep.
True, spending hours and hours.
Yes. But they're out of shape, but they're not eating either. He said, you can spot one anywhere, he said. And then you have some kids that just kind of munch as they're gaming, and maybe they're overweight. But typically, he said, you can pick a gamer out. These kids can.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
It is. And, you know, neuroscientists say that this is the first time in the history of man that there's more information coming in than our brain can process.
Man, I believe that.
And so it's creating all of these cognitive distortions that we have. You know, you can look at, when it comes to girls, there's a real high rate of stress and anxiety and body image disorder because what we see on the internet, like on these, say, Facebook or some of these other various social media outlets, is you see the best, picture of this person, which even though we know, I've heard girls say, even though I know that it's made up, they color the teeth and touch it up here and there, that still in your brain becomes locked in as a real picture.
Well, you think about Barbie doll. Barbie doll taught the girls how they're supposed to look, from a very young age. Barbie doll did.
Yeah, and it did. It that created some problems with some girls. I mean, it's always been this way, but not to the degree we're seeing it now. And that's because there are no ugly people. Everybody on these social media outlets are pretty. And so it's hard to compete, and
well, they have filters,
Yeah, right, exactly.
Thank God. I hope we have a filter. Don't we have a filter today on us? Hope we do.
I hope so. Yeah, so it's distorted images that we're seeing, and our brain can't differentiate between what's fiction and what's not. So I don't know. It's really hard, and I don't know where this ends. Nobody does. It's kind of like a new experiment with humanity. But we do know that what it's doing to the brain is it's causing us to be, it's called amygdala hijacked. And I don't know if we want to get into all that.
I love this. This is exactly why I have you here. Let me talk about this in a second. The name of the show, Elevate. Our series on Thursdays, we train here in the Success Center. We have speakers come in. We called it Elevate. So Elevate can be elevate your health, elevate your mind, elevate your spirituality. It could be just elevating life, and that's what we're here to talk about, and that's why we named it Elevate. So, but no, this is you are doing exactly what we wanted to do.
Well, for us to elevate, I think at a personal level, elevate myself. What I've got to do is I have to learn to control my emotions. I mean, I don't know how many of us that I hear they sent a text and they just wish they could get it back. Or you send an email and you wish you could get it back.
Or eat that cookie I just ate.
Cookie,
Gosh,
yeah. So,
I mean, I did a half a cookie, then went back and got the other half.
Well,
I
half
wish
is
I hadn't
good. No,
done
that's
that.
good. That's not bad. So what's happening is our fight or flight mechanism is being activated. And there's a third component called freeze, where we do nothing. But what's happening is with this information coming in, we act on our emotions first. So we have this emotional feeling, and that's created by a thought. There's something called the cognitive triangle. So you have a thought, we're going to make a triangle, you have an emotion, and then you have a behavior. Okay? So what's happening is when we get hung up in that emotion, we're reacting too fast. Okay, because, and I'll give an example, that mechanism is very important to, in, let's say, in ancient times. If you were to step on a snake on the savannas, whoever jumped quickest would survive. Well, you can see that even still taking place in today's modern society. If you're barefoot and you step on a water hose, you'll still jump, right?
Absolutely.
Could be a water hose, but it's better that we jump because it might be the snake. And so what that is, that's a survival mechanism, and it's very, very important. But what we have to do in modern society is we need to stop and take a deep breath first before we respond. So the fight or flight, now, of course, if someone's coming at you with a gun, there are times when we need to react rather than think. But we're most of the time we're indoors, and we're communicating with people. And so that response doesn't need to be as fast. It's not a life or death situation. I find that when I'm having a conversation with someone, when they say something and you say, let me think about that for a second, it really affects the other person because they're like, oh my gosh, they're thinking. What are they thinking about? But what I'll be able to do is calm myself so that I can give an appropriate answer that's not based on emotions. So clarifying and evaluating the feelings that I'm feeling really helped me to respond in a more favorable manner so that I'm not embarrassed about it or want to take it back. And that's hard because, again, the amygdala is kind of always stimulated where it didn't used to be. It's always stimulated, and that's because the information's coming in. It's information overload. And so we've got to be very, very careful with our reaction, our response, because of this mechanism. There's a great book by Robert Sapolsky. He is a evolutionary biologist at Stanford. And the book is called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And, humans, we're part of the mammalian family. We're mammals. But we're the only mammals that get this specific stomach ulcer. And so what they've done is they've done studies on this. And the thing about other mammals is their stress is episodic. It only happens on an episode. Let's say the zebra is getting a sip of water from the Nile River, and he sees a little disruption in the water. It's in that zebra's best interest to jump up high and get out of there. And after he gets out of there, he starts eating grass. He's not thinking about, why didn't the alligator get me? I wonder if it was an alligator. Did the alligator not like me because I don't look tasty enough? He doesn't do that, but we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And having this conscious component to humans, it is a blessing and it is a curse. And I think it was John Milton said, our mind is what we make it. We can make a heaven out of hell or a hell out of heaven. And so really what we've got to do is we've got to start clarifying and evaluating a little bit more our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions. And that's what I want to do.
So let's talk about that a little bit. How obviously you've got to be conscious that you're doing that. It's got to be something that you do. You have a morning routine. Let's talk about that morning routine.
Okay.
Well,
there was a point that I was burnt out on training. I owned my own building. I mean, I was highly invested in what I do. And I started thinking, what else could I do? Because I just can't take this anymore. I thought nobody was listening to me about the workout programs because I didn't have that high of a success rate. But yet I did have some people that were very successful. Employees, I was getting to where some wouldn't show up for work, so I was having to work extra. And you know how it is owning your own business.
Absolutely.
It stops with you. And
man, I bet it is frustrating being a fitness coach, trainer, and then you don't see the progress.
Right.
Even though they're coming in every few days to see you.
And they're paying you money.
They're paying you money, and you're supposed to fix them.
Right.
And you can't because you can't stop them from putting the food in their mouth.
You can't. I mean, I've got you 1 hour. I can't go home with you and feed you. So it was very frustrating. I can say now that I'm not frustrated at all. And nothing's changed. I've changed. And that's the cool thing. The world is going to continue as it is. I've got to learn how to find how to live in this world in a way that doesn't bother me at all. And there's a word, Trachomachia, and it means lack of disturbance. Atrachomachia. Trachomachia is disturbance, and atrachomachia is lack of disturbance. And so there was a very valuable thing. We're talking about get back to my morning ritual. What I had to do is in in neuro linguistic programming, NLP, I'm also certified in that. Their philosophy is that our brain is a computer and we are the programmer. Okay, so if I'm thinking flawed, if my thinking is flawed, if the computer, if my processing is flawed, it's not the brain, it's the processor. It's what I've been telling myself. It's what I educate myself. It's what I watch on TV. John Hume said, "Tell me with whom you consort, and I will tell you who you are." And so we're a combination of all of these things: our environment and who we hang around, and being in the gym and thinking that it was them. You know, I would hit my alarm every morning, and I'm not going to say the word that I would say out loud, but I would say it starts with S. You know, and then what I would do is when you say that word, what you want to do is validate that word, because you can't be wrong. You want to justify it. You know, I got so-and-so coming in at 7 o'clock. I got that person coming in at 8. This day is going to be horrible. Nobody's listening to me. And I would be in the shower going through all of that, and you create your reality. You create your own universe. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to start reprogramming the computer. So I had to write down the word S. And I thought, what word could I use that's better than that? And I came up with the word opportunity.
I love it.
You know, the fact that I woke up today, I have an opportunity. I have an opportunity to help, to change people's lives. But I also realized, as I said earlier, that there's really only one person I can change, and that's me. And I've told my clients, you know, sometimes when they're very, very successful, they say, you know, it was all you. I don't take credit for the wins, and I don't take blame for the losses. I'm just here to help people. And what you do with it, it's on you, you know. And then what happens is I'm into my next hour, and I go with the next person. I'm in the moment. And that really changed everything, starting off with opportunity, and then doing some things like a meditation. I don't really meditate. I'm too active and I'm busy, and I don't think all of us are capable of doing that. I think probably one of the worst things you can do is tell these highly driven professionals to try to meditate, because we can't.
Can't
That's
sit
why
still
we're so
long enough.
busy.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're so successful because we're busy. But what we can do, I can find moments in my day where I can do that. So the shower, don't allow, think about the water hitting your head, your body. I do one ritual a week, which is usually Sundays. I go kayak fishing. And I've with intention, I notice the smoke coming off of the water. I notice the bird in the sky. When I'm in Lake Palestine, I mean, I've seen eagles come down and catch fish. And it's just, you know, it's just incredible moments like that to learn to be in the moment. And so we have to start learning to reprogram our computer. It can be done. Now, if the first thing that you say to me is, well, but that's hard. Well, everything is hard. And anything in our life that is of any value, it's come from hard work. You know,
Absolutely.
you don't feel really good, and you don't build confidence and self-esteem from accomplishing easy things.
Absolutely.
That's where that's built, is in those moments of stress and struggle and suffering. And I've told you I'm working on a book, and it was funny because I got to looking back at the chapters. My largest chapter was on suffering. And, you know, I think if you look at today's society, you know, a lot of people, you know, we wonder what's going on with our kids. And I think that one of the biggest things that's going on is that we do not allow them to suffer, because it hurts us more.
We could do a whole show on that.
Oh, we could.
We could. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah. And so we've taken away all of these teachable moments. And I love, you know, I mean, if I'm not suffering, I'm really not trying. The gym is a good metaphor, but I don't look at suffering as a negative thing, right? And I'm not suffering in a way with my thoughts. I'm suffering with trying to stress myself to a greater level. You know, if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's like a triangle. And the very top of it is called self-actualization. And that's where you reach your full potential. And he said, what a man can be, he must be. And so that's kind of what I'm striving for. You know, there's not any particular vision or goal, you know, and it's not about money. I think that if you do a good job, that happens to be a component of it.
Absolutely a byproduct of it. Absolutely. I agree with you. You know, when we talked a little bit earlier, before we started to do this podcast, I had heard about your morning ritual, and it includes journaling.
Journaling, yes.
Yeah, talk to us about kind of what you write in the mornings. What do you write about?
Okay. Well, when I was going through this process of retraining my brain, I noticed that all successful people journaled. I mean, and I go way back. Marcus Aurelius, while he was battling in war, his journaling, his book of meditations is unbelievable. How do you stay calm in that kind of situation? Teddy Roosevelt, a lot of our presidents, Thomas Jefferson, all of our great leaders, they all journaled. And so I started looking into that. Now, cognitive behavioral therapy, I'm a big proponent of that. And Stoicism, they're kind of one and the same. It's about controlling our mind, being calm in stressful situations. Journaling was one of the biggest component in that. And I thought, well, I'm going to give it a try. And the first day you might sit there and stare at your piece of paper. What am I don't know what I'm journaling about. I don't know what to write down. I may write down that, I have an opportunity today. Start with that. What I started doing is during my sessions with my clients, people would say things that like sparked a fire in me. And what I would do is I'd say, hold on one second. And I would write down, for instance, somebody said yesterday's coffee. I thought that was interesting. He wrote down yesterday's coffee. One man I was talking to, I said, so are you happy with your life and what you've done? And I love what he said. He said, I like what I did, but not what it did to me.
Wow.
I was speaking with another guy, and we were negotiating a price on something, and he's an older man. He said, you know what? It's getting late. Let's do the deal. So it's getting late. And what I'll do is out of all of these comments, I would write about those and what that really meant. And then what I noticed is that, and this was out of the blue, I had no intention of doing this, but some of the things I was writing, they rhymed. And so this all started with, with the rhyming, the poetry, is that my wife did not want me to get her any gifts for her birthday. Just give me a card. I don't want anything because we get whatever we want when we want it. So instead of getting her a birthday card, I wrote her a little poem. And she opened it, and the first thing that kind of surprised me is she goes, "Where did you get this?" And so I thought, wow, it was good enough that she thought I couldn't have done that.
She thought you logged into AI, didn't you?
Yeah. So this was 10 years ago, so it was way before AI. So what happened is every morning when I get in, usually I'll write a poem.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I've done that I have over 3,000 now because I was figuring I've done it every day for 365 days a year. And I mean, I've just done, sometimes I do 2 and 3.
Every day. That's amazing. So back to the journaling, but the journaling, do you talk about what's happened the day before or the day that you're going up on, and you do it in the morning? Is that correct?
Yes, I do it in the morning. It could be, the poems are a lot about what I'm thinking. I mean, I like to make it rhyme, and I can go deeper actually, I think, with that than I can just writing it down. Now, I wouldn't recommend.
Did you start out though just writing it down? Because I mean, if we're listening to our average person that's maybe watching us today, they're going to go, Kelly, there's no way I could write a poem every day.
Well,
and that's what I'm thinking. But I could journal and talk about the day prior or talk about what's going on that day.
What I would recommend is just start off with some things you'd like to change. Okay. Or what I'll tell people is like, write down, how do I want my life to be?
I love it.
Okay. And then you do that, you do a personal, you do a career, and, you could do your family. You could write down different, and go through each one of those. How do I want my life to be in each one of those categories? And sometimes, you can also do that as like a blueprint. And I recommend the SMART template for that. SMART is what am I trying to say? Acronym. Yes, thank you. It's an acronym. So it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And we really start to create a blueprint for our life. You think about it, we do it for our jobs. It only makes sense that we do it for ourselves.
We've been in my household, we keep a gratitude journal. Grateful. at the end of the day, we talk about the 3 to 6 things that we were grateful for that day. And, you know, when you're raising a teenagers, especially and kids, if you start them out doing that, I mean, it's amazing how their perspective changes when you teach them gratitude.
You know, our kids, their frontal lobe is not developed. Girls, they say around 22 to 23, and males around 27 to 28. Now, the frontal lobe is known as the executive director of our behavior. It controls our impulses. Okay, you want guys on the front line in the Marines or the SEALs that are below 28, because they will run into a building firing away. Me being 57, I'm going to let them go first.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, but at one time, I'll tell you, I would have ran in there with no thought at all. Testosterone's high,
wide open.
Oh, adrenaline's going. You know, your vasodilation. You're injecting glucose into the bloodstream. I'm in there. But as we get older, we think a little bit more about it. You know, the consequences of doing these things. And so I think as a parent, really, we've always looked at it. We don't teach our kids what to think. We teach them how to think. Let them problem solve. You know, if they say, well, I don't know, what do you think about this? I don't know. What do you think about it? And then if they say that, go, well, this could happen. So it's kind of like bumper pads on a bowling lane. You're just kind of bumping them back in, you know, but let them come to the conclusion. You know, teach them. That's a great time to.
Kelly, that's so hard.
Teach,
you know, my husband's that way. I'm not. My kid asks me anything, I just tell him exactly what I think. And I need to take that time and guide him a little bit more.
Just say, what do you think? You know, it doesn't have to be a long conversation, but I don't know. Tell me what you're thinking about it. And get that frontal lobe activated. But with our kids, like you said you started with the gratitude. Well, around our house, we've always eaten a clean diet. And it was very funny the first time we went to a birthday party when not the first time, but it was early on. My son was probably about 5. And we left the party and he was holding on to his seat with his body rigid. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "Yeah, I just feel like I want to go really fast." And I had remembered that the lady at the party, she gave him some Dr. Pepper.
Oh, my.
And he had never had that sugar and that caffeine like that.
Oh, wow.
And so he was just wanted to
Hanging
go, feel like he was going fast. So, yeah, I mean, you know, you model the behavior you desire. And so we've always tried to be that model for our kids. And it's easier because they go into that as an adult. And it just makes life a lot easier as we get older.
Absolutely. Your kids, I mean, how many children do you help have?
We have 2 kids. We have a son that's 25 and a daughter that's 23. Connor is 25 and Courtney is 23.
Man, I ran into Kim the other day and I asked her that question. I should have remembered, but I will tell you this. I just bravo for people that can raise kids, honestly, and that can get them raised and they're good people. You know, so many times we raise kids and you just hope on a prayer that they turn out okay.
Yeah. It takes, I mean, it's important. I mean, of course, we've had them, but it just takes a lot of, I think, education and modeling. That's the main thing. And being, you know, be that example so they can see how we act. And we always had them interacting with adults. You know, we never babied them. Did the baby? We may have done the baby talk at 1 year old, but but after that, we treated them like an adult, and so we never really had that hard transition, and we kept them busy and with different things. Sometimes it's sports. I mean, that could be whatever.
So your wife, tell us, she's a counselor, is that right?
She has her master's in psychology.
Man.
But she trains. She's like me. We train. She does some of the behavioral modification also. And she also works for a company here in town and just helps with various things around there. A lot of that is also life coaching. I really foresee in the future companies are going to need that person either on staff or they're going to need someone that's available to come in and
no question.
Yeah,
no question.
We're going to
I
have
agree
to
with
do
you.
it. We're living in a different time. And if you're looking for employee morale, if you're looking for better, less tardiness at the job, people who really feel good about themselves. I mean, we've done the teamwork thing, but we've got to take it more to the individual level. And, being an owner, that will show your employees that you really care, and you'll help them to work through some of those things. Because, you get an office full of people, We all see things a little bit different.
Absolutely, but Kelly, but not only that, from a productive environment, running a team of people. I mean, we see it all the time. You put one or two people in the room that don't mesh. I mean, it kills the production of the rest of them because of all the drama that goes on that surrounds those people. And, and HR can't always handle that.
Right.
But I can't agree with you more.
The funny thing is what I tell people is that person that bothers you the most is the person you need the most. They are letting you know that there is something there that's bothering you. It only affects you if you allow it. So that time is not to look at that person. Why are they doing what they're doing? The question is, what is it about that that's bothering me? Okay,
well, I'm just going to say it. There's some flawed individuals out there.
There are, but there's a great opportunity for you to teach them, to try to help. Not do it overtly, but
Kelly, I should have met you a long time ago because I tried. I have tried.
It's amazing. Let me tell you, I had a client that bothered me. And
Did you?
It was that one that I would get in the shower and go, I can't believe I got that person at 8 o'clock.
What would he do to bother you?
Okay, number one, they would question everything I had them doing, and which is fine. That didn't bother me that bad. But they had several issues, lower back issues, knee issues. They would go, why aren't we doing that? They were always questioning.
Second guessing.
And I said, well, we're not doing that because your back bothers you. Or we're not doing that because of your knees. So we're working around that. And they would act very frustrated, and we were very limited to what we could do. But it would bother me. But why did I let that bother me? This is a great moment for me to be able to explain. We're not doing walking lunges because it puts a lot of sheer force on your knees, and that really affects your patella tendon. So it's a great opportunity for me. I looked forward to seeing this person so much that when they canceled one day, I laughed at how I got upset because I was missing an opportunity to be able to explain things. So nothing changed. It's just I changed my perspective. I reframed what I was looking at. And so if the thing that bothers you the most becomes the thing you need the most, there's no bother anymore.
Interesting. Well, we're going to have to do a whole show on that one. I know that our time is up, and man, I tell you, this has been so informative today. I have loved spending this time with you. And we are going to come back next week again, and we're going to keep continuing this conversation. And we're going to zone in a little bit more on our topics, and we'll be putting that topic out here earlier in the week, and then we'll be dropping these every Friday.
Well, I'm so glad that you're doing this. This is something that is, I think, so progressive for Tyler. I think that we're all seeking knowledge. We're hungry for that, and I'm just glad that you're taking the time to do it. And I think the way you're doing it is perfect, and you're not sparing anything.
No, we're not sparing anything. And, people, when they see me, they think we're going to talk about real estate. We're not talking about real estate here. And just like with you with fitness, we're going to touch a little bit on fitness, but this is about elevating your whole being is what this show's about.
Yes. And you may be a realtor, but who are you? Who am I? What am I doing here? And that's when you start finding that stuff out. That's when you really reach your full potential.
Absolutely. And we're here to help people. That's what we're here for. Yeah. So, Kelly, thank you today being with me.
Thank you.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
I look forward to the next one that we do next week.